Good evening to everybody. This is Vasudevan, and today we are going to see the 10 commandments of innovation, and the point 5 is my wisdom on it. So, without much delay, let's continue with the agenda. Start with let's ask what is innovation. Now, innovation to many is a new way of doing something, but the catch is that new stuff needs to do something useful, something creative, something functionally improving it. That's what we mean by innovation. From an organizational context, it should be linked to your KPIs, meaning an improvement in efficiency, productivity, quality, market positioning, improving your market share, differentiating across your market space, or anything. But it needs to be linked to where your rupees get hurt. There is a fine distinction between invention and innovation, and to put it very brief, invention is the conversion of cash into ideas, whereas innovation is the conversion of the ideas into cash. None other than Steve Jobs, who wanted to quote here, is innovation distinguishes a leader from a follower. Every innovator, therefore, needs to be a leader. Okay, so how do I start? First, you have to have a dream. When I say it's a dream, it should create an inspiring vision. I like to take Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's word here. That dream should really not allow you to sleep. It should be that inspiring in it. And the dream should really focus on your core competencies. So it's no use really trying to ape or mimic somebody else in the innovation program. You need to know what your strengths are. So it's like this: the fish cannot dream that it can really run on the land at 60 kilometers like a cheetah does. Even if you have that inspiring dream, it's not in the competency of the fish. So you've got to focus your dreams on the core competencies that you have, and it needs to be a vision focused. It cannot be I'm not able to say it cannot be, but let's say end world hunger. That's a dream. That's kind of an inspiring dream, but there should be some amount of a narrow vision focus. So you say the world, that world can be of a finite area and not the entire world. So you need to develop that vision focused. When you look at vision, I wanted to pick Walt Disney. He said, if you can dream it, you can do it. And I think I believe in that. So you have a dream. The next one is nothing can be done without a team. So you need to inspire your team. And how do you inspire is to communicate the strategy in such a compelling way. Now it needs to be done. For you to be compelling, you need to have very clear thoughts. You need to convey the strategic intent, and you need to create that culture. Make business fun. In today's world, it's called gamification. Put your idea as a game. Create that. The idea of a game is it has instant rewards, gratification. Do that. That's how we can inspire the team. I use the word IEEE because it's a kind of a metaphor, because the best of the contents in engineering comes into the IEEE world. And to inspire, you also want my IEEE, which is to inspire, empower, enable, and energize. If one of these is absent, the team will be able to feel it, but it cannot take it. All the four are required for you to inspire. Margaret Mead, a 1960s famous anthropologist, who really believed in this statement when she said, "Never underestimate the power of small committed groups who are going to change the world." And indeed, they are the ones who have changed it. The majority have never changed it. So now you have an inspired team, but that inspiration should have some focus on the end. What better way is to create that value for your end customer? Your focus should be on the end customer, providing value to him. Practice this customer driven innovation. By why I say is practice, this focus is not a value, is not a character, but it is in habit, and habit comes from practice. Involve customers in your process when you are doing your new PDM, new product development. This, in today's world, in analogy they call it as agile, where the stakeholders are there in it. But in innovation, it's enough if you really involve them during that initial ideation, brainstorming, to know the pulse of the customer, what it is. Yes, customers do not know, if the famous quotations of Henry Ford. So if you ask them, they would have asked for better horses. The need for the car would not come. So you got to take their inputs, but not at face value. Involve them. It's just involving. John Romero, the great entrepreneur, and this is what he said. So you're headed in the right direction when you realize customers' viewpoint is more important than company's viewpoint. I stress on the word more. So it's not degrading the company or the team which works, but we need to realize that their viewpoints are more important. So you got focus, you got an inspired team, you have a vision. Now it's time to be different from the market. When I say different, it's not that like in 1960s, if you wore a jeans that is torn, you get looked upon. Whereas now, not wearing one is when they say, "Oh, you're old fashioned." So this is not the kind of difference that I mean. Actually, if the hole is much higher on the pant, you are more vogue. But that's not how I want you to differentiate. There should be a differentiation of yourself and your product. It should have your value plus the product value. For example, it's Apple. Apple, the developers have a value that they say we're going to do the best in engineering, best in class, highly, and the product by itself says it will be most easily useful for all. That kind of a differentiation is required. And in innovation, it's not enough that you do incremental. It doesn't really give you benefits. You need to be radical. You need to change the game. Sony was doing best in the sound with the bigger boxes, the boom box, the Walkmans, the CD man. They were there, they were running until the iPod came and threw them off. Within 4 months or 5 months, the entire legacy of Sony was gone. It was a radical innovation. Practice lateral thinking. Sometimes people in innovation, they kind of become unilateral. You need to be lateral, which is it goes across, it cuts across boundaries. That's what will help you. What better example than I give than Gandhi, who says we must be the change we wish to see in this world. So unless you differentiate yourself, you're not going to be different. So we're different. The one way how we can be different is by questioning everything, and this is not like my teenage kid trying to question, but we need to question with whys, what if not, looking constantly not to be satisfied with anything in yours. There will be assumptions that you make in your innovation, the idea, but let's not be satisfied too easily. The first two whys don't. Let's try deeper. Look at what else. We need to ask a lot of probing questions. Probing, when I say, it moves from the what or the engineering or the manufacturing part to the how. Exactly, how is it helpful for me? The latest product that caught my eye in this was the Heidi, the chain of hotels. They have come up with that kind of a squeeze bottle that allows you exactly to make a medu vada perfectly round, perfectly shaped. They asked a question, now why should I have a banana leaf, put it, touch it? It needs a lot of practice. So they asked us, why can't it be made easy? A lot of the cooks don't make it is because of the complex. It's not that they can't eat the vada, but making it. Now these questions led them to get this product out. Question and reassess every decision also. Robert Kennedy does that same thing, and his look is that some men look at the way things are, whereas I dream of things that are not and ask why not this become practical. Like I said, what if not is a very powerful questioning. So you questioned, you start questioning, there will be a lot of negativity raising around. People will think, oh, this just asking questions. No, your questions needs to synergize the team. This is the sixth point, and I'm using this, but the equation is actually E equal to HF, where H is the Planck's constant. When I mean synergize, the innovator, his focus should be quite narrow, but the information that he holds should be wide. It's like the 1855 lens that you get on an SLR. It's both wide angle as well as single focus, short focus. Similarly, we need to build that cross-functional expertise, system level thinking. That's how you can synergize. We need to build a cross-functional team, and an innovative idea cannot be done only by engineering, only by a small number of teams who have similar skills. It needs a wide variety of skill. Cross-pollinate your idea. That's when we can synergize. Leverage diversity. Create synergies. Diversity, I would say, yes. Women think of the same idea in a different way than men. For example, the flower vase. The women use it to beautify, whereas the men use it as a leg stand. It's useful, but cross-pollination. Nature tells us, bees, without bees, you know what happens. Pollination is required, and cross-pollination is furthermore required. Peter Drucker, I want to use this, is you cannot do carpentry if only you have one saw or one hammer or never heard of a thing called pliers. It's when you put all these into one kit that you can really do a marvel furniture. That's why I said it needs a team, and it needs a team with a variety of skills. You need to arrange that team. So the team's arranged and you have different skill person, then we need to come to that bad word, process. Don't construe process as bad, but we require that. We need to create a business model, rules, infrastructure. Even to measure your success criteria, we need a process. We need to know if we are moving in the right path. We need to provide that strategic alignment with the first point of your vision. You need a process. You have a vision, which means you're not there yet. And we need a process for you to move from A to B. And you need that alignment, otherwise, you drift. Encourage jazz like improvisation in your structure. I'm not familiar with jazz, but I do want to make this metaphor or this similarity of what the process is and why it's required. In the Carnatic phase, we have the Raga Alapana, where it left to the freedom of the artist to really do it. And there is umpteen number of freedom, but it's not open. You have governing tools, the Arogana, the Avarogana, where you place your gamakas, how do you place them, what time do you dwell, all are constraints. Within these bounded constraints, you still can find n number of ways to do it. Innovation comes only when there is constraint, only when there is a process. Free ending is actually called as a wish list, as a crazy list. Put them a constraint, put them time bound, put them on engineering bound, then it becomes innovation. So we need that grinding structures. Found this anonymous quote, good one: without order nothing can exist, but without chaos nothing can even evolve. So when we are trying to evolve, we need to do something. We are venturing into the unknown area and we need to take risks. Take those entrepreneurial actions. No pain, no gain. No venture, nothing wins. We need to take that. Experiment, learn from market feedback. In taking a risk, I would like to quote this from the world of Toyota. In the early 2000s, Toyota Corolla was their flagship model, best selling. It was absolutely reaching. And suddenly, one day, Toyota decides to stop and say we're going with Innova. They said we're stopping it. Look at the amount of risk that the company took. What if Innova had failed? It looks bad when you say I'm going to stop this and bring it. They took that risk because they knew they had the engineering there, they had the vision there, they have done everything, and they were willing to take that entrepreneurial risk. They also experimented it. It's not one shot in one morning the board wakes up and says this. No. They were experiments, but they were willing to take that risk. Learn from failures and start again, smarter. The word I want to stress is smart. Failures are always there. You got to start again. But if you don't start smarter, the risk eats you. So learn to be smarter. Ken Iverson, a famous CEO who turned a bankrupt steel company into a profit making, it was done by risk. Risk aversion or aversion to risk is very deadly, especially in business that are changing by the hour or by the minute. To take risk, somebody needs to lead, and leading, they need to even change the business scape. So you need to create that mindset to have that creative dissatisfaction to resistance for change. This mindset can only come if the leader is able to walk his talk. You have to demonstrate that leadership attribute that yes, change is inevitable. We need to take change forcibly or unforcibly, and we need to lead in that by example. There needs to be a lot of internal and external adaptations that you need to do. You will have self-doubts, you will have market doubts, but you need to create that positive change, saying this change leads to positivity. and you need to adapt to it. And what better way? In the word they say agile. You need to be very swift. David Adaif, the person, the game software developer who was the first to invent the Wolfenstein, the first person game where you just see the gun and you're supposed to be that person in that game. He led the change in the video game perspective. And his famous quote, I wish to say, is never innovate to compete. So if you're trying to compete in there and thinking innovation solves that, no. Innovate to change the rules of the game. Then you become the master. You tell the world that this is the way it's done. You lead it. So finally, for your innovation to be successful, entrepreneurial has to be in your DNA. You need to be that. You need to develop. You need to practice. You need to execute, and you need to do that daily. Continuous learning. It never stops. Innovation never stops. Look for opportunities and take it. Grab it. Be persistent. Overcome obstacles. Solve problems. I think Sound of Music, I want to touch upon that, really tells all about this. When Mother Superior tells, climb every mountain, ford every stream, she sings. The entire hobby has, how do you solve a problem like Maria? There will be problems. And Maria by herself was persistent that she needs to be that caretaker for the children. When I see it, it has nothing to do with engineering, but this particular story and this line made me write these lines. You need to be persistent. You need to overcome obstacles. You need to solve problems creatively. In the end, you will feel tired, but you will be the winner who is tired and not the loser who is tired. Peter Drucker says innovation is the specific instrument for entrepreneurship. It is the specific. If you endowed with this resource, it is that capacity that derives wealth. More than wealth, it derives success. I've come here, so let's do the recap. You need to have a dream. You inspire your team by IEEE. Focus. Try to differentiate yourself and your solution. Question everything. Have synergy between teams. Establish a guideline process. Be ready to take risk and lead that risk. Changing one. Finally, if you do the 9, the 10, if you practice, it comes into your DNA. If there is a reader or a listener who is asking me what's that 10.5, that was one of my innovative ways to see if you really wanted to gain that 0.5 or just wanted to see what the 10 was. Just a reality check. Thanks for listening here. If you have any clarifications or want more detailed tools and ideas of how to do that, you can reach me at mvasu@yahoo.com. mvasu@yahoo.com. Bye.